So I'm Galia with Bancor. My co-founder Eyal Herzog is also here. I was asked to give a statement about decentralization, and so I chose this pick. Any useful statement about the future should at first seem ridiculous. Anyone who is in blockchain or who has been in cryptocurrency since before today, even today really, knows this feeling, right? It seems ridiculous, it sounds ridiculous, and that's why we call ourselves visionaries. This photo is actually taken in downtown Palo Alto, California, my hometown. I grew up in Silicon Valley, a place that considers itself quite visionary as well in the world of technology. And today in the world of blockchain, we actually see a really nice decentralization of technology, and I'm glad that we're doing this here in my new hometown of Tel Aviv. So my partners and I are all consumer internet people. You heard in the bio or in the intro, we've been doing consumer internet companies for a while. This is a phenomenon I want to share with you which comes from the internet. It's called the long tail. The long tail represents basically all the small and niche products that have low volume, low trade, low views. And it turns out that collectively the long tail represents orders of magnitude more than the hits. Okay, so if you think of YouTube, all of the cat videos, all of the Bitcoin videos, all of the baby videos, all those views together, and each one of those videos might have 5 or 10 or 100 or 1,000 views, actually represent more of the traffic than the Justin Bieber and the Beyonce and the top, or maybe there's a cat one up there too, but then the top most popular, multi-million view videos. So when my partners and I discovered Bitcoin, there we go, in 2011, we thought to ourselves, this is a user-generated currency. This is the first currency that's generated by a person. Let's call it a user, this specific user, Satoshi. But we thought there would be more like this. And if there would be more like this, eventually there would be a long tail. Today we're already familiar with tens, hundreds, maybe we're approaching now thousands of currencies. But when we look at this from an internet perspective, we know that eventually we'll be looking at tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and millions of currencies. So my partners and I, and you'll recognize most of the Bancor founding team here, this is about 4 years ago in our previous venture, we said, let's make these user-generated currencies and let's make it easy for anyone to make a currency for their group, for their community, for their town, for their project. Bitcoin wasn't ready at the time. In fact, we supported and incubated a project called Mastercoin. I think Ron Gross is here if anyone wants to talk Mastercoin history, which would eventually be the foundation of Ethereum and some of the platforms that we work on today. So cryptocurrency wasn't ready at the time. We built our own software off of blockchain, and we said, let's allow communities to make their own currencies. This is an example of a project that we did that was very popular here in Israel called Lev Market. Lev means heart in Hebrew. And we issued a heart currency for mothers in Israel. We had about 20,000 active moms join this community. They were issued hearts when they joined. There were all these ways that they could earn hearts by helping other moms, volunteering in schools, donating their time or their items. And what we saw over the next 2 years was astounding, frankly. We saw millions of dollars worth of commerce take place only in hearts between the moms. We created software, a marketplace, and really watched this community flourish right here in our hometown. Many of the moms would come by our office and tell us that this currency changed their life. That they suddenly had a way to get toys and a babysitter and a birthday cake and different kind of luxurious goods for their household that they couldn't afford before. All of their shekels were pre-committed to rent, to gas, to school, to food, and they really had nothing left over. These hearts were like a pinpoint monetary expansion for this community, and it created tremendous abundance. So over time, we discovered a major problem with all of these communities, and we ran dozens of pilots like this. Every community turned out to be an isolated island of values. You can think of this almost like national currencies today, but with no exchange rates between them. So if you had hearts, you were stuck in hearts. If you had waves, you were stuck in the surfer community. There was no conversion rate, and there was no way to organize the communities to agree on how to exchange their currencies between themselves. Of course, there was no way to allow these currencies to transact with regular money, with shekels, or with dollars. We call them isolated islands of value. This is what's known in finance as the liquidity problem. If your currency isn't exchangeable for any other currency, you're stuck with it. Over time, it becomes less valuable to you. With each transaction, you're deciding, should I do it in shekels? Should I do it in hearts? Because shekels are more liquid, or dollars, if you're in the US, you tend to go with that over time because a liquid currency is a valuable currency. So there hasn't been a solution to liquidity for the long tail of currencies until now. When we discovered Ethereum, essentially what we saw was a platform for programmable money. For us as internet people, this meant customization and many, many new options. And so we actually started building on the Ethereum platform last year and developing the Bancor solution. So what Bancor is trying to do is create instant and continuous liquidity for millions and millions of currencies all around the world. The way that we do this is by developing a standard called the Bancor protocol, which establishes a new generation of cryptocurrencies that we're calling smart tokens. What makes them so smart? A smart token holds one or more other tokens in a reserve balance directly in its smart contract. Price of this token is then set as a fraction, basically as a ratio between the reserve balance and the token's supply. I won't get too much into the weeds of the math. I will tell you that the formulas are all on our website in our white paper, but you can think of it this way. When you establish this reserve, you're essentially locking away a small amount of liquidity for your smart token. Your smart token is always exchangeable for that reserve currency, and you can always use that reserve currency to buy that smart token. This all happens at a given rate, and that rate is calculated by these algorithms. Now, the things that affect the price of a smart token are the normal things we'd expect, supply and demand. When you buy a smart token, and when many people are buying it, you're applying upward pressure to the price, and it's getting more expensive with each transaction. When you sell a smart token, you're putting downward pressure on the price, and it's getting cheaper with each liquidation. So these are the supply and demand mechanics that we know from the market. But what's different about a smart token is that all of these buys and sells are happening between you and the smart contract, not between you and a counterparty. What does this mean? First of all, no counterparty risk. You don't need to deposit your money into an exchange in order to get the other currency. You send it back to the smart contract, and the smart contract sends you the reserve token that you're asking for at the given rate at that time. Another interesting thing about this formula, about these formulas, is that we are adjusting for transaction size. So if you come in and make a large purchase or a large sell, this formula will actually calculate the price as if you had done it in infinitely small pieces. So buying 1 million units or buying 1 unit 1 million times will create the same price. And this has a lot of very interesting implications. It puts downward pressure on manipulation. You don't have whales coming in with lots of currency buying, selling, and moving prices a lot. They essentially pay for the price movements that they're creating with large transactions. So a lot of interesting implications from the math, and I encourage you to check out the white paper. It's not, as you can see, it's not an easy topic to deliver verbally, and certainly not in a short amount of time, but there's a lot of good information on the website. We'll kind of cut to what's interesting for our talk. This is the website. So a man named Bernard Leotard, and I hope you'll all stay for the end of the day. He's giving the closing keynote, and he's a wonderful and interesting guy. I put him up here because he actually looked at our white paper. He read through the formulas. I put this up to give you confidence that it's not that easy to understand on the first try. He read it 3 times before saying what he said here. Essentially, Bernard's work, and he'll share more about it in the afternoon, focuses on complementary currencies. So currencies like what we piloted with, the hearts and other things that we tried and that thousands of people have tried all over the world, are called complementary currencies. They're not intended to replace the national currency. They're intended to complement it. They're intended to create liquidity in pockets and to create custom networks of value between people who maybe trust each other, people who maybe live near each other, people who maybe have a similar socioeconomic class and have good reason to be collaborating and sharing. So Bernard's work on complementary currencies is in fact what inspired my partners and I to go down this path and see what user-generated currency could offer the world, and he'll be here later today to share his work. So if you think all of this is interesting and smart, I assure you that we didn't make it all up. It's actually an emergent theory that comes from a lot of interesting economic history. Does anyone know what this is, where I'm at in this pic? Anyone?
Give us a clue.
No? So this is the Bretton Woods Hotel in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. I went there on a little economic geek trip a few weekends ago. This is an interesting hotel in history. After World War II, the leaders of the free world, basically, or the winners of the wars, congregated in this hotel at what's called the Bretton Woods Conference to establish the new financial order. This is the order that gave us the IMF. It's an interesting little bit of history because there was a guy there, an economist, called Keynes. And Keynes made a proposal at this conference called the Bancor proposal. We've named our project in honor of this proposal. Essentially what Keynes was trying to do, and he was a British economist, Britain, of course, wasn't as strong as America after the end of the war, and he basically said, look, we're going to have a situation here where the strong countries with the strong currencies are always dominating the weaker countries with the weaker currencies. There's no way to get out of that trade imbalance, and your weak currencies, your weak countries, are essentially always going to be selling their land, their resources, their people by way of labor, their assets, their IP themselves, essentially to the strong countries via banks in order to finance international debt. Let's do something else. Let's create a currency, a global reserve currency called Bancor. And let's use this currency to kind of intermediate trade between nations so that nations aren't trading directly with each other in terms of their currencies, where a strong would always overwhelm the weak, but they trade against this global reserve, and some kind of global governance body can issue more, issue less, and help countries that need help in international trade. Essentially to slightly depoliticize the situation. I love sharing this photo. If you can see it, this is a group of 9 men. Okay, this is the U.S. delegation. This powerful U.S. delegation of 9 men overwhelmed the conference with their U.S. dollar proposal, which was, let's use the U.S. dollar as the international global reserve currency. They said, don't worry, it's backed by gold. Okay, this isn't a free-floating fiat currency, it's backed by gold. We can use this as our international reserve currency. Of course, we'll know 30 years later, pulled the gold, and that's what we call counterparty risk, right? Let's see, and this, essentially established the world we know today, where banks provide the service of international finance. We have the IMF and special drawing rights for weaker nations, but essentially the US dollar is our global reserve currency for now. So to bring us back to Bancor, what are we trying to do at Bancor? And again, we're inspired by this proposal. It's not a replica of the Keynes proposal. Of course, he didn't have smart contracts, and he didn't have really even computer programming and many of the tools that we have today. He certainly wasn't thinking about decentralization the way we think about it now in terms of algorithms and autonomous behavior and computer code, but he was thinking about it in terms of kind of global harmony and what kind of intranational body could we put together to create a healthy financial system. So those are the elements that really inspire the Bancor project. At Bancor, we are trying to lower barriers to entry for anyone to create a currency. So on the front end and in the product, we do this by creating a dead simple consumer internet interface where truly anyone can come to the website and make a currency. And then structurally, we do this through the Bancor protocol and the formulas that I mentioned, which allows all of these user-generated currencies to be liquid and viable from day one. Great. To give you a feel for the ease of this, we're going to use chatbots. Actually, a lot of our product is already up on testnet, and if you go through the website, you'll be able to get to this stuff. We're going to use chatbots to let you create a token. What could be easier than having a conversation? Chatbots are great for process-driven tasks, and they will help even the least knowledgeable user create a viable currency. And like Jake said a few talks ago, we're really intending to redefine what money is. Money is a unit of value that we give to each other in order to collaborate in exchange for goods, services, time, energy, and it looks like it's up for redefinition. So I'll end where I started with the long tail. If we know that the hits in cryptocurrency, right, your Bitcoin and your Ether and the currencies we all love represent about $100 billion of value today, imagine what this long tail represents. We'll call it the longest tail. Thank you.